No, we're doing the formerly Dixie Chicks. Now they just call themselves the Chicks.
Yeah.
Goodbye Earl and Snoop's Murder Was the Case. So it ought to be an interesting show. I mean, it's two songs, two murders, two like it's or almost I guess, and I mean we'll talk about context and stuff like that too. But it's going to be
Well,
cool, I think.
chicks were really, really big when we were younger.
Big time. One of the things I wrote on here, um, like my opening note, I mean, other than like introduce who they were or whatever, they were one of the biggest bands in the world. Like not just country bands, but bands, period, in the world
Yeah,
at that time.
three or
Um,
four bands in the world during their heyday.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is like late 90s, early 2000s.
So I say,
Um,
yeah, 7 to about 2005, 6-ish, it
yeah.
feels like. Yeah.
This song is 99, but yeah, I mean that was their peak.
Great era.
Um,
Yeah.
they have great pop country songs hooks like style of like we're not talking about country music necessarily like Johnny and Willie like we've talked about before. This is more like Garth Brooks, Shania Twain, that
Hmm.
kind of style, but they also
Catchy.
play their instruments too. Like they it's Natalie Maines is the singer, the blonde lady, and she's a guitarist too, and then Emily and Marty McGuire, Emily Strayer, who are both Irwin, they're sisters. They both got married, so they have different names now. But um, and one's the violinist, and one plays like banjo, essentially. So they're songwriters. They are musicians too, not just singers and harmonies too. Um, but
No, they're an extremely talented trio.
mhm. Yeah,
They are.
like
Their notoriety and their success is well deserved because they're accomplished musicians and writers.
mhm,
And not big fan of the word Dixie, obviously, because it's
right.
kind of but did even understand when you hear their music stylistically why they
Mhm.
originally named themselves that because they are some Southern girls.
Yeah, they're from Dallas or from Texas. So, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, too much.
They got in big trouble later in their lives with speaking out against the Iraq War at the height of George Bush
Yeah,
or height Iraq War stuff, and that,
OW. Mercy.
it was it was a whole thing. We'll get into that later too. But like, yeah, they are the phrase Dixie Chicks, like you take all the connotations out of it, which are, obviously very problematic. Um, but the two words just sound good together, right? Like the two words just sound
No,
good together.
no. It's a good play on words.
But also, I mean, it's worth saying too that they weren't a band that was shamed into changing their name. They did it of their own volition. They said they like went back and looked at it in the last, I don't know, 5 or 10 years or so. I don't remember when exactly they changed it. And we're kind of looking at it and like, oh, I'm not sure I want to be associated with that. So they changed it themselves. They weren't like forced by a label to change it or like embarrassed by a social media campaign or anything like that. They did it of their own volition.
Which is good, and that's noteworthy.
Yeah,
That's notable.
it's like realizing
Yeah.
that something you did when you were younger was maybe not the best idea and stop doing it. Like that's
Well, that's having an epiphany as opposed to being coerced by the business.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so they were the way I describe it in my notes was they triangul one of the reasons they were so big is they triangulated three things. The thing that we talked about, the pop country Shania, Garth Brooks, I mean, they did that very well. They
Mhm.
also um many of their songs have very feminist themes, not just this one, but like many of them do. So they actually were maybe not the only, but certainly the first country act to play at the Lilith Fair too. Um, in 1999, when this is the same year this album came out. They played Lilith Fair that year. So they have this, and that's alongside, Indigo Girls and Jewel and people like that.
Mhm.
Um, so they had that corner too. And then finally, many of their songs can have that like "don't fucking try me" edge, like don't mess with me. And there's a long history in especially women's country music of that kind of energy in songs, and they also pick up on that um as
That
well.
comes that because the culture is sometimes abusive towards women.
hmm I think so. I mean, Carrie Underwood has a song about, keying her, like that's a more recent example about keying her man's car for cheating on him, cheating on her. Um, like there's another song on this album. The album's called Fly. Um,
Mhm.
there's another song called "If I Fall, You're Going Down with Me," which is about very much what the title implies. There's another one called "Sin Wagon," which is about a woman who is, let's say, enjoying herself after a divorce. Which is a great, great, great song. If you have not listened to that, especially the live version of it, it's excellent. Um, but there's a long history of songs in like women's country music, with the kind of feel of like I may look sweet and kind and innocent, but if you cross me or my friends, I'm gonna fuck you up. Like there's that kind of energy, and that's exactly what Goodbye Earl is too. Dolly
That's
has those songs. Emmylou Harris has those songs. Tammy Wynette does. Reba McEntire does. The most famous, or my favorite anyway, example of that is a song by Loretta Lynn called Fifth City, which is another, it's sort of like Jolene. It's that kind of song. It's like there's another woman sniffing around her man kind of song. But the lyric of the song is basically if you're going to get him, you got to come through me first, and you're not going to like that very much. So we can do another episode on that song too because I think it's a really important song. But it's this song "Goodbye Earl" is falling into the that canon of songs where I may look nice and sweet and kind and innocent and have that southern voice and charm and stuff like that. But if you cross me, you can get the hands. Like it's just going to be a problem, right? Um, so I think it touches all three of those points, and that's one of the reasons I think they became so famous.
I found the songwriting on this song to be very entertaining and cinematic.
Yeah, it is.
It's script worthy almost. It's like you could create a whole television show series or write a whole
Mhm.
movie based on this song.
Yeah, absolutely,
And
you could.
and um I mean that in a glowing relationship to the songwriting and the likability of the song because rarely do you hear, and I guess this is like I guess the female country singer pull off where you make it big is that you have to make the "I'm gonna kill my man" song, but it
Yeah,
has to sound sweet.
yeah,
You know, like it has to sound sweet, even though it's like what's going on is really like heart wrenching and heartbreaking. That
yeah. I
appears to
mean, this song sounds definitely silly and tongue in cheek a little bit, but also the song is about murdering an abusive husband and throwing him in the
that's
back of the car and then in the lake, like, and
right.
poisoning him. Like that's not
But it doesn't feel that tongue in cheek because the writing
no.
is so descriptive and so personalized. It's like,
Hmm.
oh no, as soon as she married him, she started whooping that ass. So we're gonna have to kill him before the police get to him. It's like,
Hmm.
oh no, there's nothing tongue in cheek about that.
No,
But
no, no.
but I think the pull off is that it's done in a frolicking way and not in a malicious way. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
and the beat and like the sound of the song mirrors
Yeah,
that too. It's
yeah.
kind of a cheerful sounding song.
It is. It's kind of like a relief that they did this.
Yeah.
Like they're that they did.
One of the geniuses of the songwriting is that um I am a pretty pacifist person and I don't like violence particularly at all. But even I listen to this song when you get to the end of that second verse, and you're like, damn right he had to die. Right, like there's not many people you think, oh yeah, he fucking deserves that. But like in this case, you're like, yeah, okay.
No, that's what I mean about the buy-in, the believability of
Yeah.
it. It's like they actually they make the murder of this man okay.
Hmm.
You know, they do. It's
And
almost like I totally understand, and I think that you're going to get off if you get a good
hmm
attorney.
and it turns out they don't even need one, but like it's in the case of the song, but like and that's one of the obviously differences between the two worlds of the two songs, which is something we'll have to address later. But um
Well, that's also key to the songwriting too. And here's what I mean about how it could be a movie script as well. Is
mhm,
that well, it's the way that you even write the police scene about the police coming to check but not finding
mhm,
them and kind of like riding off into the sunset, like, oh well,
yep,
that's very like movie tale,
yep,
very cinematic type of story. Because in reality, it's like if the person's going missing like that, well, the police are going to come back.
yeah,
You know, and they're going to be checking up. But for movie TV purposes,
right,
so, and I can see, I'm assuming the song was a single when it was released.
yeah. There were a
Yeah.
bunch of singles on this record. Yeah.
I, I can imagine so for that time frame because I can remember how big they were. I can see the video to this in my mind already,
Hmm.
having like a very much Thelma and Louise plus
Yeah,
one type
it does
of
have that
it
vibe.
does have right. Well, that's what I mean about it cinematic. It's like oh, it's like it's got that Thelma and Louise vibe. It's got that Jolene
Hmm.
country like rich and aesthetic to it,
Yep.
but it's it feels like to me really just even from the music that we were have been discoursing about on your side on the popular culture, country blues and folky side, is that this song sounded the most recent, and it is, I think.
Hmm.
Like it's
It's
like
one of the most
oh,
recent ones. Yeah.
well, they've done where they're doing what has been done before them, but they've updated the formula and
Yep.
updated the formula well. And so now I can look back at our formative years in early 20s and understand why they were so big as a music lover now too.
Yeah.
Because back then I didn't understand. I just knew how big they were. I really wasn't into the music. But now, see, it kind of works for that on my side too, where it's like, well, through the discourse of us doing this and the music that I've heard, when I heard this, I'm like, oh no, 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 no. This formula is tried and true.
Hmm.
And they're just
It's a
up
four chord song. Like, yeah, it's
yeah, and they're just updating the formula. And usually, who updates the formula the best is who blows the biggest. And I
mhm.
think their music, even outside of this record, kind of speaks to that. Correct?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They are excellent musicians.
They are.
And
You can hear it on this record.
you should go listen to and the people listening to if you haven't done. They released a live record in like 2003 or 4 ish, which has a
Right.
lot of these songs on it. And there's a special energy to being in a crowd of people when they all scream because Earl had to die, like all at the end of that the verses, like it's
Right.
it's a
Empowering.
it's empowering, yeah. It's people taking their lives into their hands in a way that people in the non-fictional universe can't really, like, because
Right.
obviously the story would not end like this um if um if it was in the real world, right? Like they would be in
Oh,
jail,
it's
like
TV
probably.
made. Yeah, it's made for the movies, made for TV, made for
Yeah,
records.
which is
But
fine. I
beautiful.
mean,
But
it's
I think it touches that emotional chord of abuse and domestic violence in this nation. Though. It does.
yeah,
I
it
mean,
does.
it does. It touches the chord of it on a few levels because it's like, well, I always try to look at things from a distorted framework when I hear a record like this. And it's like, what does the guy who actually treats women this way feel when he hears this record?
Yeah.
What emotion does it get out of that man? Because
Hmm.
I think it's one of those records that even would pull an emotion from the perpetrator, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Like, do the people around me secretly want to kill me and throw me in the lake? Like,
Yeah.
that's
What type of
and
psychosis
yes, they probably do.
right,
But
but what psychosis does it put the abusee in? You know,
yeah,
so
that's
but beautiful song, all in all, still even with all of those.
yeah. Describing it like this makes it sound really dark, and it doesn't
That's
feel
what
dark at all. If you've never listened to the song, you
very,
should. But
yeah,
it's
it's very beautiful, and even with a song like this, you typically find that the melody is slower. That's what I mean. Is it's like
mhm,
well, they really hit their mark with this one because it's like usually on a record like this in their genre, this is more of a melodic, heart beating, and maybe not even four chord.
yeah, softer.
Yeah, softer, more subtle, more somber.
Yeah, and this is
Yeah,
not a somber song at all.
no,
No, it's um it feels weird to have the conversation we've just had and call it a celebratory song, but it is. It's a
it is.
celebration.
They're relieved after killing him. He's been pretty awful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's like it's got that. This is what I mean. It's got that country ass Old Testament vibe to it. It's like we're gonna take the law into our hands.
mhm.
You
There's some
know,
Wild West in there.
eye
That's
for an eye, two
yeah,
for a two.
yeah. That's the don't mess with Texas, right?
Right. I didn't know they were from Dallas. I used to have a sister live in McKinney. It's different there too because it's
Yeah.
country but big.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this. The first thing that I immediately thought when this song came on, I was like, well, the record that we're comparing it with is probably his darkest record.
It's very dark, yeah.
It is.
And the Chicks do have other songs that are darker, not in content necessarily, but the way it's addressed. I mean, they're not all like fun and games and um cheerful murders, but there are lots of darker or more complex emotions, I guess. Um it's an amazing song. It even has some of the biggest songs in, I don't say white people history, but like I mean in this side of the world have like na 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 hooks too, and this one does too. Like Hey Jude does. I mean those kind
Yeah.
of songs do. This one has a
Oh,
hook. I mean she sings
that-
other words to it too, but
I think what they really are is a modern day iconic band.
yeah, I
It's
agree.
like really
This
don't
is
see bands as big, definitely female bands. You definitely don't see bands this big post 1999,
mm-mm,
really. I
no.
mean, unless I'm missing something, because here's the thing about it. One thing that even made me want to do the show with you is that, well, a lot of the people that you speak about and the people that we cover, it's like there hasn't been one name that you brought to me. It's like where I've been like, who is that? I know very much who all of these people that you brought to me are.
Yeah,
I just don't know their music as well as I should, but
right.
understand. It's like I know who they are because they have transcended on a certain level that they
Hmm.
had forged into the black sphere of culture some sort
Yeah.
of way. It's just about where it triggers in my memory. It's like when we were doing the episode with Queen and the Freddie Mercury, it was like, oh, I know a bunch of your shit.
Oh yeah.
You know, I just didn't know I knew a bunch of your shit.
No,
you know,
Freddie Mercury songs are everywhere.
that's what
Everywhere.
I'm.
Yeah.
They're everywhere, and it's like so. You know, you're like it's cool for you because you're like, well, I learn something every time we do this. It's like, well, I do too. It's like I
Hmm.
learned that it's like I'm more than I even thought all along. I've been singing Freddie Mercury shit my whole life.
Yep.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like my entire life.
Yeah.
So when you when you see a band like this, and it's an all female band
Hmm.
too,
Which is very unusual. I mean,
it's an anomaly of sorts. And what I was about to say is I think that they really part of it is that well they checked all the boxes, but they checked all the boxes at the right place in the right time where this country was changing and
hmm.
women were becoming more empowered.
Yeah.
You know, like not being funny when I say this because I know politics have something to do with their foray into another sphere that doesn't even involve music and something to do with maybe their dissension as well with igniting their fan base and not for the better. But seeing people like a Hillary Clinton
Hmm.
in the 90s
Yeah.
is very empowering for I don't know how to say this because it's not really applicable to black women as much, but for the
No.
average white female
Yeah.
and for the single white female, and I think that they are a result of a lot of things musically and culturally, and it
Yeah.
happened at the right time, and so they just exploded.
That's the
You know,
triangulation thing I was talking about. Like it hits all of those points.
yes, it's a
Those
confluence.
three groups of people who listen to pop country, people who listen to Indigo Girls, Lilith Fair music, and people who listen to like old school go fuck
Mm-hmm.
yourself country music, the Tammy Wynette's and Loretta Lynn's of the world. Like those are not necessarily the people that listen to the same stuff, and they pulled all of them together.
Because they have a piece of all of that in their music and in their
Right.
music capability, absolutely.
And
Because
their
you can
harmonies are great, their lyrics are great. Like they have all the pieces.
and you hear the country in their instrumentation immediately.
Yeah.
It's like country.
Well, they have fiddle and banjo, and yeah, they have all those things. Sure.
Yeah, it's the banjo playing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I was introduced, if this is a good time for the story, like I was introduced to them like more seriously. I mean, obviously I was aware of them when I was in high school, but one of the girls I dated in college was a huge um fan of them. And we went to see her parents in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, which is about an hour north of Nashville, give or take. Right over the Kentucky line is where Fort something something is. I forget what name of it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Um, so we went up there and I was in college in Asheville at the time. And we went from Asheville to Hopkinsville, which is 5 or 6 hours probably a
mhm.
trip. And we played both this album, Dixie Chicks Fly, and Tom Petty's Greatest Hits, um, alternated there. It's her car, so she got to pick the music. Um, there are many reasons that relationship was not the best in the world, but I did take this music from that, like, and I still like it's still great warm weather. Both Tom Petty and the chicks, honestly, are both great warm weather, roll it down your car, roll down the windows in your car kind of music too.
You want to know what I just thought about when you said that? I just thought about, and we don't get to talk about this, obviously. I just thought about there's so much R&B. There are so many R&B songs that I love that I don't really listen to because they're attached to moments and memories of women who I'm no longer with.
Yeah,
I was just having a moment where I was realizing, oh God, they're having the same moments about me with all this rap stuff that I put them on to. Like when you were just talking about her,
yeah.
in your mind how toxic that I could see your nonverbal from knowing you is like, oh, that relationship wasn't good or healthy at all.
It was bad, bad, yeah. But
See, I
um,
could see that just from knowing you, from
mhm.
the way that you said that, and I was just thinking to myself, it's like, that's one of those things where music transcends again, because it's like, oh, I've probably done that to somebody because I know it's been done to me. Because I was just
Yeah.
thinking about put me onto an album that I love, but I can't really play it because it just makes me think of them and my time with them, and it's like,
Yes, it's hard, right? I mean, and we all have, I think this is a worthwhile sidebar too, honestly. Like we all have songs with everybody that we're with. We have songs that are associated or bands that are associated or musical acts that are
mm-hmm,
associated with them. And it
mm-hmm,
makes it weird to listen to them afterwards. Like
mm-hmm,
we went, one of the last things that we did together, she and I, same girl, was went to a show in Atlanta with Live and the Counting Crows, Live like I Alone and Lightning Crashes,
mm-hmm.
etc. Yeah. So I can't listen to them the same way really either anymore.
Lightning Crash,
Um,
massive.
oh, it's an incredible song. We should do an episode about that one too. It's a great, great song.
It is.
Um, but that's another one of those like three chord songs that was very different from other things that they were doing.
I don't know.
But
I remember Lightning Crashes. I remember that record well. I know that song.
yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a gorgeous song.
It is.
Um,
Pros too.
so I mean, and so all of the X's, all the major ones anyway, like have songs associated with them, and
That's
it's just
true.
it makes it not uncomfortable. Like I'm working on like reclaiming some of that. Like I like this music too, and I liked much of it before I ever met you, like that kind of stuff. Or
Oh
I was the
no.
one who introduced it to you, so why can't I still listen? Like so it's
Sometimes I'd rather forget the person and come back to the music when I'm like not
yeah.
attached to it.
It takes a while to get to that place where you can come back to those songs again. Yeah.
No, absolutely, I agree.
I'm realizing in many ways that some of the coldest lyrics in any songs that I listen to are country music, which is weird. It's not what you would think normally. You'd think like Metallica and crap like that, but like
Oh,
but there's some cold stuff. I mean, the end of the last verse of the song is very much in the we talked about this and when we talked about Johnny Cash too and the Folsom Prison Blues. I mean, my mama told me not to play with guns, but I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. I mean, it's that kind of vibe. I mean, the end of this is like after the sheriff comes to their house. And remember, in the context of the song, for those of you who don't know the song, in the context of the song, the sheriff's coming to their house because that she put a restraining order on him, and they're they're coming to arrest him because he broke the restraining order. That's like the context of the sheriff coming to their house, and they're like, I don't know where he is. But the lyric is the weeks went after the sheriff leaves. The sheriff says, if you hear from him, let us know, because they're looking for him to arrest him for breaking the restraining order. Um, the weeks went by and spring turned to summer and summer faded into the fall, and it turned out he was a missing person that nobody missed at
God.
all. Um, and so the girls bought some land and a roadside stand out on Highway 109, and they sell Tennessee ham and strawberry jam and don't lose any sleep at night because Earl had to die. Like that's like independent of the jovial tone of the song, like that's ice cold.
So I'll tell you why a lot of black people don't get down with country music.
Uh-huh.
It's very depressing, and we got a lot of shit going on over on this side.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, so for us listening to country, it's like, oh no, 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 you're not about to stack your white people problems on top of these black problems that we get.
I feel that though. Like I
Oh,
see I
you're
see that.
no, because it's crazy. Even when you brought up the Folsom Pretty Blue, the
Prison Blues, yeah.
Folsom Prison Blues, it's like I think about Bun B on sipping on some scissor from Florida to Folsom because he's from Port Arthur, Texas. It's like
Hmm.
he probably first heard about Folsom from hearing that song.
Yep.
you know. So
And
there's
Folsom
there,
Prison is a real place, like it's an
yeah, yeah,
actual
it's
prison.
real. No, no, no,
Right.
it's real.
Yeah.
But he says from Florida to Folsom. I'm thinking, what does this what does this black guy from Port Arthur, Texas, really know about Folsom Prison in California? You know,
Yeah.
because even the way that the jurisdictions work, it's like, oh well, they would be sending his people to Terre Haute in Indiana
Right.
or Waverly in Virginia before he would be going all the way out to Folsom. And so, you know, the music is there, but I do see something when we cover the country song. I mean, I can't front. It's like, man, I was like, talk like rappers,
They do.
you know?
There's a
Yeah,
lot more, and I don't want to like do all country songs, obviously. That's not my area of particular expertise, except in a couple places. But like
great.
there's a
Well,
lot of overlap in the way they talk about their lives.
this is what I mean too. The country songs are detailed the way the rap songs are too. Like
And their
your pop
stories, a lot of them.
stories, that they're stories, and so they involve using more of your technical literary devices. And
Hmm.
so, actually, even through doing this show, this is the first time I've actually gained a true affinity and appreciation for listening to country music, where it's not being forced upon, where it's like, oh no, I see the respectability of it and the connection to it to my culture, which is why we started doing this show.
Right. And there is a lot of garbage country music, to be fair. Like, I mean, there's a
But
lot, but like,
we're playing good shit. It's just like I'm
yeah.
not playing you trashy rappers either, though. You know,
Yeah. There's
like
well, exactly. There's trashy music in everybody's.
right. Like we're covering Snoop today. You
Yeah.
know, he's
That's
literally
not.
the star rap's ever seen. So
Yeah.
it's not like I'm handing you like a 3-star MC. You know?
Yeah. He's one of the best. One of the best. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to cut this one and
Yeah,
so we
let's
can.
go ahead and cut it and move to the next one. I want to talk about Snoop a little bit. I have more questions about him than like about the song anyway, because this is, like I said, I had not listened to this song in a long time. I have questions about it, like because I had not played like I the name of it was familiar, bouncing around in my head, but I had not. I mean, I'd heard it before, but it had been a long, long, long time. And this is not like jovial dark. This is just dark, dark. The second half of this, as we have indicated before, is about Snoop's murder was the case. I looked that up, it was 1994. So if you have not done a subscription to this channel yet and you're enjoying what's going on, we'd love it if you do that. We're trying to get our numbers up a little bit. So
No, it's just we're walking into a new year. We want to get rolling. You know
yeah,
what I think actually help us, and you and I probably discussed this. I think we need to pick a time and start going live.
yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to work out the how it's set up, like the actual physical setup.
Yeah, we're gonna have to actually work out the particulars, but I think we maybe need to start setting the show time and start the new year and start promoting the show that way too.
Okay, that'd be good too. Yeah.
Yeah, murder was the case.
Hmm.
I mean, first of all, I think this is one of his best records still.
Do you?
It is. It's still one of the best songs that he ever did. It's so ironic for what he has become. This is something that when he released it, you weren't surprised at all
Hmm.
that he it because he was somebody, although he hadn't become this mega star hit maker,
Hmm.
he hadn't become our biggest spokesman or sponsor yet.
Okay.
This is very much art imitating life too. Snoop was on trial for murder,
Right.
along with bodyguard. Somebody there was actual confrontation, you know, in the Long Beach Inglewood area, if memory serves. And Snoop was actually on trial for his life, you know, pretty much 2 or 3 years into his rap career.
Okay.
You know, which is quite frankly the best start to a rap career ever because his introduction into rap is probably the only other song that's probably as dark as this that he's a part of is Deep Cover,
Okay.
which is the first time that you hear him. He's obviously the front man and star on Dr. Dre's seminal effort, The Chronic,
Right. Sure.
and in his album, and this is on his album Doggy Style, and is the lead single to the actual Murder Was the Case soundtrack.
Oh, so it was on Doggy Style too.
Yes, it's on
Okay.
Doggy Style. There's a Murder Was the Case soundtrack, which is actually one of the greatest soundtracks ever,
Mm,
just as a
okay.
whole. But this was the seminal record off that. This song had a full video. He came out to the MTV Awards in a wheelchair to imitate the rhetoric that was on
Oh,
the
wow.
record. So this record was pretty massive. Yeah.
All right.
And but this is what I mean. Like hip hop used to be different. Snoop used to be different. This is a street record.
Yeah, it is.
There's nothing sing songy,
No.
hip hoppy in terms of how you may know Snoop and who he becomes about this record at all. It's very it's kind of funny, to bring up somebody else who's associated with the dogs. This record is more of a DMX type of record.
Okay. It's definitely dark. Like I associate darkness with DMX for sure. Like just as a mental
It's got
imagery.
this to it. It's got the conversation with the devil,
Hmm.
or the interpretation of whoever the devil may be
Yeah.
in there. It's got some of Snoop's wickedest lines and just slickest delivery too. It's really a masterful record, but it's a record born out of the tenuous nature and circumstances we coming over. This is really art imitating life to a degree.
Okay. That was
Mm-hmm.
one of my questions. Like, is the I wrote, tell me more about the context of it, and you have told me some of it. And I knew he was on trial, like that part I knew, but I didn't know if he had been shot before that. Like, because for those people who look like me who've never heard this song before, like the first verse is people pulling up on him and he gets shot and he's in a coma, basically, right?
Right. So so
And then
so
the
here
second one is like the trial or being in prison.
Correct. So the way that it happened in real life is that he and his bodyguard were looked at the as the assailants
Hmm.
who pursued somebody.
Okay,
But the way the story went, and I'd have to read the transcript to see again just to be
right.
sure this memory serves. I believe ballistics showed that they were shot at first.
Okay.
And so I think some of the interpretation of this record, and this is all conjecture at this point because I would have to check the transcripts again to see, but this is just what I believe. And my memory is usually pretty solid.
Yeah.
That this song kind of got created as the interpretation of what would have happened had those bullets hit him.
Okay. I got it. That makes sense.
But in the reality of the matter, the other gentleman got hit. It just wasn't found to
Mhm.
be Snoop and his bodyguard, and wasn't found to be at fault. So,
Okay. It was a
but
self-defense thing.
I believe that is. I'd have to. It's been.
Yeah, I don't know at all. I'm asking.
No, we were kids. I believe there was some self defense involved, and I believe he was just acquitted on all charges in general. I'm not even sure if self defense even came into the motive
Okay.
once from the gun firing and shell casings all came out, because I can remember that being part of the case. It's like the ballistics from the scene. And
Hmm.
actually, I mean, you know how forensic go, where they're actually like, taking people's stories and measuring the trajectory of the bullets
Right.
and how
And see if they match up and stuff. Sure.
yeah, if what matches up. And Snoop and the bodyguard story, I believe, matched up more than the assailants' families and all that. So
And this would have been roughly the same time as like Rodney King OJ trial kind of times too, more ish.
okay, after Rodney King, but right before OJ.
Okay, that's what I thought is where it was falling. Okay,
Yeah,
so
what's falling in between them? You
yeah,
know, just Southern California is a hotbed for our racial tensions and for hip hop culture in
yeah,
1989 to 94.
yeah.
And before that too, just putting those two together at the same time, like specifically for our era, our childhood. So yeah, um, musically, I love this record because of the descriptive nature of it.
Okay, talk more about that.
Um, look at it from the perspective of somebody who's the age that we are when this record is coming out. When you're hearing your favorite rapper talking about late night, I hear toothbrushes scraping on the
Hmm.
floor.
That's such
Niggas
a
get
image.
just in case the war pops off because you can't tell what's next. Like he's giving you the visual aid of what's going on as he's sitting in his cell at night.
Right.
And so this is me at 12 years old. I'm literally asking my cousin who's 20, the artist, the painter right here, the one who does all the paintings. I'm asking him, I'm like, what does he mean when he's like talking about scraping his toothbrush on the floor? He's like, that's how you make a prison shank. He was like, they take the bristles off and that plastic part,
Right. It makes a
shave,
handle. Sure.
shave it down, make it a handle, make it a razor. That's your shank. That's how you protect yourself. I'm like, oh, I'm 12. I don't know that. Never been
Right.
to jail. Definitely haven't sat in no cell where people are like, and
Hmm.
he's speaking to gang life, just in case the war pops off. That's what I mean. That's why I was like, what is he talking about? He's like, my cousin telling me, he's like, Cooper's Cali, they bang. Like,
Hmm.
you could be in there, you could be a Crip and be, in a cell with a blood. And,
Yep. And that's a problem.
yeah, yeah. So he's juxtaposing just the tension
Hmm.
of the life that he's chose through this song too. That's what I mean about, well, it's really more personal than people realize, because it's like it's not necessarily a true story,
Hmm.
but it kind of is. It's just not directly his true story, but it is
Okay.
the story.
It is a true story.
It's a true story of a young black man being raised in gang culture in Southern California.
Right.
It
And
is.
that's like, to use a metaphor from my teaching career. We read or have read The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. I don't know if you're familiar with that
Familiar
book.
with it.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tell a little bit about it. Just I know you are, but like just for context. Um, One of the themes that runs throughout that book is a book about a man who's come back from Vietnam, and he's telling stories about his time there. And so it's sort of a series of interlocking short stories. Like they are sort of the same characters, and they're different. It's different facets of their experience and in their experience when they come back. There's the central short story in that book to me is one called How to Tell a True War Story, and it is about how he's trying to tell a story about his experience that is true. And but what he means by true is not factually accurate. It means that you are painting an image or creating a scene that makes the listener or reader feel the thing that you felt when you were in that situation. Because a lot of the times maybe your eyes were closed, or you're like covering your ears or ducking or whatever. So you don't really know exactly how it all went down factually, but you're trying to retell the story in a way that helps somebody who wasn't there feel the thing that you felt. And I think that's what this song is doing too. It is, even if it's not, I'm using quote fingers here, true story, like factual to his life. It is a true story in the sense that it is illustrative. It illustrates um, how some people's experiences, right? And it
No,
makes you feel the things that he felt.
right. See, okay, so when you're saying some people's experiences, how are you contextualizing when you're saying seeing some people's experiences? Because here's the thing. It's all too relatable. It's not a some, it's a most over here.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
It's like,
got you.
you don't have to be part of a gang or from Southern California as a black man to feel the tenuous nature
Okay.
and the tone of it. Because even as a 12-year-old young black male who's never been a part of a gang, who had obviously not been incarcerated at 12 years old, oh no,
Right.
you can feel the tone. You know that tone and feeling. You know what I mean? You
Hmm.
know the danger that he's kind of like speaking of. Like, it feels too real to you as a black man. So that's what I mean is that
Hmm.
this is actually one of those records that he made that kind of solidified him more.
Okay.
This is Gin and Juice and What's My Name have come out. We know he's a star.
Right.
This is like, I wouldn't say this is keeping street cred intact, but this is letting you know that it's like it's still real for Snoop Dogg and it's not some big party.
Okay.
It's not all blunts and bitches.
Yeah. And he
You
actually
know,
uses some of the lyrics from like Gin and Juice and stuff like that in that second verse too.
it's the
It flips
last
them a little bit.
it's
And
the last verse.
okay.
But yes, so, and this is what I mean. So this song is very much where it is similar to the Chick song, to
Mm.
Goodbye Earl, is in that, well, people sang this song with ease, like the lyrics weren't
Mhm.
tenuous. But the only difference is that the feeling in the beat is way more eerie,
Yeah.
ominous, the voices. So this is what I mean about the tenuous nature of what we deal with in our society. We sung this song happily because
Oh,
Snoop's
cool.
voice applied to us. As I look up at the sky, my mind starts tripping, a tear drops my eye. My body temperature falls. I'm shaking and they breaking, trying to save the dog.
Mhm.
Pumping on my chest and I'm screaming. I stop breathing. Damn, I see demons. This is one of the most famous lines ever that's been taken in rap. Dear God, I wonder, can you save me?
Mhm.
Like, Snoop doesn't talk like this,
No,
but he's so big that we're singing this along the way that we're singing the rest of his records. This is not like the rest of the records. This is nothing like nothing but a
no,
G.
no.
Nothing like this isn't even like Dre Day, which is a diss record. This is definitely not What's My Name or Gin and Juice. And he lets you know when he starts off
Immediately.
the verse. No more Indo, Gin and Juice. He's
Yep.
locked up. I'm on my way to Chino, locked in the gray suit, shackled from head to toe. 25 with the Izzel, with nowhere to gizzo.
Yeah.
He's letting you know, like even in the record, it's like the playtime's over.
Yep.
Yeah, like we not hanging out in Long Beach up until 6 in the morning, gin and juicing it.
Yeah.
This is Snoop going to
Yeah.
prison.
Yeah. Yeah. This and the lyrics, like I said, they twist them a little bit. He's taking things that we would recognize from previous songs and
He's
twisting them.
down. He's
And
tearing down. He's
even
getting
that synth riff, the woo, like the part the you know what I'm talking about, um, is it echoes nothing but a G thing. Like it has that has a similar kind of feel
similar,
to it.
similar feel. Correct.
But I mean it's different. I
Yeah,
mean it's just got different effects on it. I think it's got reverb on it, like because it's echoing a
the
little bit.
chord
I mean it's not the same melody too, but it it is. I'm not saying it's the same like melodic line, but it is representative of that. I mean, it kind of echoes it a little bit, and but it also is like the soundtrack to a horror movie. Like it's like that. It's there's a little Twilight Zone in it. I mean, which
no,
is fits with
but
the theme of the song, right?
yeah, that's intentional. You know, he's talking to the devil. How long will I live? Eternal life, then forever. Or will I be the G that I was? I make your life better than you could imagine or even dream of. So relax your soul. Let me take control. Close your eyes, my son. My eyes are closed. Murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't talk like this.
Mm,
It's one of those things that's like it wouldn't even fit on his greatest hits anymore necessarily.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's one of his best songs. It is one of his greatest hits, but it wouldn't even fit on one of his records because he never talks like this anymore.
No.
Like ever. This is actually like this is '94. I mean, he's had some moments, but I don't think he's ever talked like this since.
Yeah.
So it's very much a one of a record. That's kind of why I wanted to do this. I know he has bigger records, but he doesn't have a record like this.
Yeah. It's a really cool song. Like because
Yeah. Well, it touches different parts of your emotions that Snoop
yeah.
usually doesn't touch. You know what I mean? Snoop's
Yeah.
not known for touching these emotions. That's why I said this is more of a DMX song. Like Snoop's going back and forth with the devil the way DMX is on his first two albums, on Damien and on the Own. You know,
Wow.
he's
Huh.
literally talking to the devil. Yeah, you know, listen to what he's saying. Like he literally asked the devil to save his soul, and this is what I mean. It's beautiful writing. So he's asking the devil to give him everything that he wants out of life and to save his life in the
Mhm.
first verse. The second verse starts, "I'm fresh up out my coma. I got my mama and my daddy and my homies in my corner. It's going to take a miracle, they say, for me to walk again and talk again. But anyway, that's when he gets up out the wheelchair at the MTV
Mhm.
Awards. That's what I
Okay.
mean. Very cinematic, like the Dixie Chick
Yeah.
song. Yeah, I get fronted some G's to get back on my feet. And everything that nigga said came to reality. Living like a ball of loke, having money and blowing hella chronic smoke. I bought my mama a Benz. I bought my boo boo a Jag. And now I'm rolling in the 9 Triz L dog rag.
Hmm.
So it's like, I bought my mama the car she wanted. I bought my girl the car she wanted. And then I bought my old school whip the Cali niggas like that I want. I'm living good. The devil done set me up. You know,
Yep.
I'm straight. So he's breaking it all down. He doesn't write like this.
No.
Like before this or after this, he doesn't write like this. That's what I mean is like, well, this is the art imitating life
Hmm.
because this is happening around that time. You don't get it from him again. It's like you get this shot and then you get, your normal Snoop, which is
Yeah.
usually to have time, make you feel good,
Right.
represent California, represent Long Beach, represent the smokers. But this is a Snoop. This is like what's going on with Snoop. You
It's a
know,
personal thing.
it's a personal thing, and Snoop is probably notorious for better or for worse for his cool pose.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
there's no cool pose in here. This
Yeah.
is Snoop, and also too, and this is what I mean. If Snoop made more records like this, he'd be more respected all time on the MC list.
Oh wow. Okay.
Like he's respected as our biggest star,
Right.
but when we talk about the greatest MCs of all time, like at the top, like, well, he's really not considered up there. It's because he doesn't make records like this. Ice Cube, Biggie, Scarface, Nas, Jay, Rock, they
Yep.
make records like this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That have a little bit more of an edge to them, a darkness that show more of your songwriting skills, your literary
Hmm.
devices,
Yep.
your get personal with the people, let them inside. Snoop doesn't do a lot of those things, you know. So him doing that on this record is pretty big.
Okay.
That's about most of the critiques or the commentary that I had about it. I know you probably had some questions, so
I mean, you've addressed most of it. Like, um,
that's always good when that happens.
a thing that I think would be interesting to think about is like how did we get from this guy to like Corona commercial Snoop or Martha
The,
Stewart Snoop
I think
or writing happy affirmations. There's a thing going around Instagram right now, actually, like on the reels where there are people like dancing along to like his happy affirmations for kids that he's
no, listen,
done,
listen
which
to
is
what I'm saying.
great, but
No, I'm saying
not this guy.
the murder trial changed everything. It changed
Hmm.
the trajectory of Snoop's career. That's what I mean is that he doesn't have a record like this, but
Hmm.
he was doing more street stuff. If you go to the Chronic, Little Ghetto Boy,
Hmm.
wake up, jumped out my bed. I'm in a two-man cell with my homie, little half dead. Murder was the case that they gave me. Dear God, I wonder, can you save me? He's saying that on the Chronic in 1992. This is Snoop. That's what I'm saying. So when you're
Mm.
listening to the song "Murder Was the Case," no,
Let's
that's the
call him
real.
back to that.
This is the real Snoop. That's what I'm saying. The guy who did Deep Cover, the guy who did Little Ghetto
Hmm.
Boy, the guy doing Murder Was the Case. That's Snoop. You
Okay.
feel me?
Yeah.
That's Snoop from Long Beach. That's the Crip from Long Beach that Dr. Dre put on.
The
You
kid.
don't,
Yeah.
you don't hear that guy after the murder trial.
Hmm.
You feel me? The murder
Yeah.
trial is you don't hear that guy anymore. What you get is Snoop with Pharrell doing Beautiful.
And drop it like it's hot. And yeah.
Snoop doing Drop It Like It's Hot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Snoop doing Snoop Dogg with Timberland. That's what you
Yeah.
get after that. That's what I
Yeah.
mean is that the murder case literally killed like the street MC who was really like has an MC. Oh, that's when he was that guy.
Yeah.
See, he became our star after that, but musically, that guy is on Murder Was the Case. Like the guy that we felt like was the best MC since Rakim.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that
Yeah.
that was how he was characterized at that time.
Yes, when Snoop came out, he was considered to be the best MC people had heard since Rakim.
Wow, that's number two, right? I mean, like that's way up on the
Right. As far as flow, delivery, how people gravitated towards him,
yeah.
like it was like that, but he had the rhymes. It
Hmm.
wasn't just like the catchphrases and all that. He's like, no, he had it because he had records like this. And so the murder trial actually did change everything. I think it made him separate from some people.
Okay. It would
And
make me do that, like for sure. Like if I was
yeah,
involved in something like that, I'd be like, we're not doing that
yeah,
anymore.
I just made him start like enjoying life more.
Yeah.
You'll find that the breakup with Death Row is happening
Hmm.
uh, not too long after
Yeah.
this, like been 18 months to
Okay.
2 years. And then he's down, No Limit, Master P, and Louis,
Yeah.
and so
Which is
this,
bouncier stuff anyway. Like, yeah.
right. He,
Yeah.
he started making headway after the murder case, and he wasn't going to be with Death Row because I think the separation he was just happy to have his freedom.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Which is a reasonable way to react to that, for sure.
right. It is.
Yeah.
So, but great song though.
Yeah, it is.
Great.
It is. Yeah. It's interesting to think about because there are two songs that are framed around murder, right? Murders. And um one is a real one. Like, I mean, the song is the murder was the case is not framed around the real murder, but like somebody did die, right? Like in the murder case, right? Like it's not that
It
he's responsible necessarily, but like it's
was,
but
it
somebody is dead.
was somebody,
And
a rival gang member, if memory serves. Correct.
yeah, and the other one's a fictional story. As
Right.
far as we know, anyway. But it's a wishful thinking story, I guess, in some ways. Like I
Yeah.
wish, like I'm sure there are lots of people in abusive relationships that wish they could like poison their significant others and throw them in the lake. I mean, the context of the song obviously is not only was he abusive, but also she finally kicked him out of the house and got a restraining order, and he busted up in their house anyway and beat her up again. Like, so that's the context of when, and she calls her friend, and her friend's like, oh hell no, we're not having this.
Like Snoop was so great in 1994. This is what I mean about how we're just rapping the words along, even if we
Mhm.
didn't really like totally feel the sentiment. It was a thing if you could rap like Snoop and say his words the way that he said them.
It's
Like when
hard.
it's hard. Like when he goes, I
Yeah.
know the niggas from the other side recognize my face because it's the OG,
Mm.
DOGGLBC, Mad Dog, and because I don't care, red jumpsuit with two braids in my hair. Niggas stare as I enter the
Mhm.
center. Like if you could do that, you were the shit. You
Yeah.
feel me? Like
Like,
forget
I
what you
can't.
said. If you could rap like that, because his flow was so agile and so fluid and so funky, if you could just rap like him, that was the thing. The thing was just being able to rap like Snoop. So
Yeah.
it's like we missed a lot of the stuff that he was saying because he said so much. I got bitches in the living room getting
Getting
it
it
on.
on.
They ain't leaving till he got so many bars like that that when
Yeah.
he's doing dark stuff, it's like, oh, you're singing as I look up at the sky, my
Mhm.
mind's tripping, a tear drops my eye. Nobody comes in on a rap song like that.
No, no, that's it's a very like I'd definitely
That's
not heard the
very country.
beginning of the song in a long
Like,
time.
like, melodically speaking, that's very country music, like how he comes
Hmm.
into the record
Yep.
as I look at the sky. That's
Yeah.
like Will Nelson, like Johnny Cash type of
Yeah.
meter and cadence more than it is your
Yeah.
typical rapper. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's melodic sounding too. Like it
it is.
the and that's one of the things that Snoop has that you don't hear, or I haven't heard in many. I mean, you hear it in Outkast stuff too. But like the actual phrasing of the bars is melodic in a lot
Mhm.
of ways. Like the pitch of the voice goes up and down and
He's,
on top of everything else.
his best form of raw, pure genius might be that he always under. I think even before he totally understood how to rap, he understood what his voice could do.
Yeah.
Get what I mean? I think the
Mhm.
rapping part of it came with making the Chronic and having the DOC there, like he said, and teaching him how to write actual bars. But the way the man that used his voice and has
Mhm.
always been able to use his voice is truly a gift, and he's
Yeah.
always known it and always known how to use it naturally. I really think it's just something God given that he's always had.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's one of those things I'm sure that he realized at an early age and was and practiced a lot, like
right.
because he knew that was a different
Like
thing.
his voice and his flow is what separated him. Like it's like he had rhymes, but his voice and his flow, especially for the time he came out, oh, it was otherworldly.
Yeah. He's one of those people, and what we've talked about this 100 times on the show, but like
The voice.
the voice is like instantly recognizable. You hear it and like, oh, that's Snoop. Like even if I've never heard the song before, like that, oh, that's Snoop. Yeah, this,
I mean, between what we're doing here at Murder Music, see, I'm about to call it Murder Music.
that's a well, please not.
No, right. What we're doing here at Mirror Music, and of course, my contributing efforts at According to Hip Hop, um,
Hmm.
have really. I mean, and this is from somebody, and you know me as a writer, and have pretty much known me as a writer my whole life, Andrew. And I say
Yep.
this very, very. I'm to the point between doing this show and doing According to Hip Hop the way I do. I think voice matters just as much as lyrics do.
Yeah.
It
It does.
does. It does because it's like I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if I want to hear somebody other than Snoop spit these lyrics to Murder William
No.
K. You get what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like this record wouldn't sound the same if DMX spit it. It wouldn't sound the
No.
same if I spit it.
No.
It's Snoop, and it's what Snoop provides vocally that's a part of that.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
voice matters. And it's like you say, it's like I remember the first time I heard Snoop. It's like I remember in my head. I remember the first time I heard saw the deep. I didn't hear it. I saw the deep cover video
Hmm.
with Dr. Dre at my mom's friend's Tara's house on Memorial Drive when I was 10. I remember where I was because I had never heard anybody that sounded like Snoop
Right.
before. Period, point blank. I already know who Dr. Dre was. It's like, yeah, yeah, you sound like you're from Compton. Who's the guy?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've discussed this on the show too, before, but this is an important note too. Like I'm a lyricist and a writer. Like I teach lyricists and poetry, and I teach like how lines are put together and stuff like that's one of the things that I talk
Perfect.
about as a profession. But when I listen to music, I never listen to the lyrics first, ever. Like I always listen to the vocal melody first. That the vocal melody is the thing that catches my ear before anything else. Um, the back and then the background music too, but like the vocal melody has to catch my attention before I'll pay attention to what they're saying. And which is one of the reasons I love Outkast and I love the Roots and love Snoop, because they have more melodic sounding lines. And that catches my attention first, and then I can like then I start paying attention to what they're saying and how the lines are put together. And then we can come on the show and talk about like rhyme schemes and literary devices and that kind of thing. Um but I have to be like entranced by the melody part first. And maybe that's just me thing. I don't know. I mean, I don't know
No,
a ton of other people who like listen to music like that, but it's just always
I
been
think,
how I've encountered it.
I mean, you know me, I'm a lyricist and a writer too, and I love me some good lyrics. But even when we're doing this and I do according to hip hop, I think part of the reason why people even gravitate towards me is because, well, I don't speak from, I know my technical
Hmm.
process
Yeah.
and fundamentally what I'm saying, but I speak to from the soul of what I hear from another person's soul. But, I
Yeah.
mean, that's really what I like to do first. It's like, that's what I mean is it's like when I'm telling you that it's like, no, 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 I can remember sitting in a room with a group of black men singing the words to Snoop's song, and nobody talked about him being on trial for murder. We just want,
Yeah.
you got to speak to those things. That doesn't have anything to do with lyrics. That speaks to the soul of the song or a fabric or way of somebody's ingratiating themselves into your home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how music does a thing. And I think it was Rick Rubin I saw the interview with, who was doing an interview, and he talked about how music, particularly beyond poetry and beyond painting and beyond other things, has a like a does it draws a straight line to your heart and soul in a way that no other like artistic media can. Like
Right.
it hits, it touches, and there are, I mean, learning about poetry and learning about lyrics and learning about painting and stuff, like you can see them and be in awe of them. But what he said, and I think I agree with him, is that music has the shortest line.
There's response and react mechanisms inside of us. We have a soul and a spirit that reacts to certain things. The chords of music, the
Hmm.
strings and chords that were created, are reacted and sensory things for us. They are.
Yeah,
It's sensory. It's embedded in the formation of man, in my opinion. And there are some things that set us off musically for better and for worse.
yeah.
I do believe that.
I do think that it's the best way or the most immediate way to connect emotional experiences from one person to another.
Mhm.
Like the reason that we respond to these songs, and in some ways, I don't want to be like these have the songs have the same vibrations because that's, hippy dippy shit. But like, but what I'm saying though is like these two songs particularly, and a lot of the songs that we have paired together, are touching the same chords in some
Yes.
ways, right?
So, okay, so this is what I mean is that musically, I'm talking about hearing something and the musicality of it making you respond in a way, and you don't even necessarily know what that way is. It truly is intuition and innate for you to respond to it. It's like,
Hmm.
I mean, I hate to say it, it's like that Dave Chappelle skit where he's like got Questlove on the
Yeah,
drums
yeah,
and he's John Mayer on the guitar and he's got the
yeah.
maracas. It's like, no, 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 your sensories are firing with certain musicality. I
Hmm.
think you're talking about the fabrics of life that sometimes connect us that
Yeah,
we don't realize because we've been separated and divided so
yeah.
much, particularly
Which is
in
why we're
this.
talking about it, right?
Right. So yes, so I believe that I believe it's actually both of those things. It's that fabric of life that you're talking about, but it's also that just spiritual connection to an actual melody, an actual hymn, an
Hmm.
actual,
Yeah.
you know, like I mean, this is what I mean. I don't want to get too like biblical with it, but it's like one of our tribes was literally created to just praise and worship and sing. It's literally that was their responsibility,
Hmm.
praise and sing and worship. When you hear stories about people ascending to heaven, there are fleets and armies of people singing and playing instruments.
Hmm.
That's what I mean. There's something spiritual about the connection to the just the melodies, and then
Yeah.
there's the of life. And I think why music is so beautiful is that if we'll just get in tune with the melodies and unpack the fabric of life, we'll find that, well, a lot of common threads
Yeah.
weaving those fabrics.
We're a lot more similar than we would think, I mean, necessarily. Like,
Sometimes we're divided sometimes as we make us. Like I told the guy I was speaking with, he's a white man about
mhm,
in our age bracket.
mhm.
I just told him quite frankly because it was one of our first times meeting. I was like, I'm very pro-black. I was like, that does not mean that I'm anti anything though,
Right.
because there's a difference.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and if we'll just start unpacking these fabrics of life together and just being forthright with each other, because he and I may be doing some business together, and I just wanted to let him know who I was in business so he
Sure.
understood. That's what I mean about unpacking that fabric of life. Like, hey, never take this like that, just in case you were wondering.
Yeah. Just to be clear, we want to be clear with everybody, right? Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
music helps us. And how about this? Music helps us cut straight through those moments. And I think that's what you're talking about because truth of the
Yep.
matter is, if me and him get in the car together and like the same song, that's going to do the same thing for us.
Yep.
You know what I
It's a
mean? It's
bonding
going
experience, right?
right. It's going to cut some of that. So, and this is what I mean. It'll cut some of that. Well, I could say that, and he would tell me in turn after we've shared a couple songs together. Oh, bro, you didn't have to say that. I already know.
Hmm.
You feel me? He
Yep.
would know through the music, and that's where the music is special. So,
Yeah. Like, and then we end up with you listening to the chicks and saying it's good music, right? Like it's like having like not joking at all. Like you've said repeatedly, like country music is not your thing or wasn't your thing, and it's just not
no,
something that connected with you. And and I don't ever want to be, you just got to listen to the right stuff. I mean, that's very condescending to anybody to say that. But like
right,
there are problematic things about it for sure.
right.
But also there are really excellent things
Well,
that they do it too.
you see, well, I mean, and since we're right here with Snoop before we go, well,
Hmm.
hip hop can be very misogynistic and unforgiving towards women. Now, can it?
Yep.
And I still happen to love it and think that it's a beautiful culture.
Hmm.
And so, the same way that I can make some inferences about, how there are some issues with other genres of music, like how drug abuse is rampant in rock and roll and encouraged instead of
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
for sure.
abuse in country music, misogyny in hip hop music.
Yep.
I'm R&B guys. I mean, they pull their dicks out on record more than the rappers do now.
Oh
You get
yeah.
what I'm saying?
All the time. Yes.
Yes, it's not even there's not even such thing as like a man making a love song anymore. It's like, come sit on my dick for 2 hours and then get out my house, which I
Yeah.
doesn't constitute love. It's definitely
No,
prostitution.
no.
Definitely prostitution.
Yes,
But
for sure.
what I'm saying is that, all genres, much like all families, much like all walks of life, well, we got our fucking issues.
Yep.
You know, hip
Yeah.
hop got issues. I don't. I fell out of love with hip hop for a while, Andrew, because it's like, well, I grown up and I realized that hip hop was a little Never Neverlandish, and
Yep.
it took me growing up and kind of recreating myself in this format before I was able to come back into it and enjoy it again. It happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's a perfect way to stop, I think. That's a good place to stop.